Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh, Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast, the journey it's taken, the people it reaches. My objective when I started was really to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey. And it started as a passion project. I had no idea where it was going to take me, but now, I was just telling Stacey, 350 episodes later, people find this podcast when they need it most. I know people wait for it when we release it on Mondays and Thursdays, and for me, it's such a blessing. I feel like it's guided. I named it after my mentor, my friend Sidra Jeffrey, who left this realm in March 2020. I started this in October 2020. It has her initials, SJ, Spiritual Journey, and I do feel like she guides it. And if you're a regular listener, welcome back. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate you. If you're new, welcome. Let us know if you have any feedback. Feedback's always a blessing. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to guide you on your journey. I get you to understand who you are on this planet, your programming. I do that through either beautiful mentorship program, which we channel through the Akashic records, take you over a 12-week journey. I currently have a promo where I'm including Akashic record training. So you get to, learn how to open your own records and other people's records as part of mentorship. Beautiful time to sign up. It's only going to be available to the end of March, and the prices go up in April. So do reach out if my voice resonates. I love what I get to do. This podcast won't be where it is today without the beautiful, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, and published author, and my great friend, Stacey Brown. Stace, I've got to do it. Be boring otherwise. People expect it. I'm just getting you for the world, ready for the world stage when people bring you on stage, and So
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yes.
Please introduce
Thank you so much. It's good to be back, friends. I'm excited about this episode and really looking forward to being able to pour into you. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from all around the world. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And this space is one that I am super grateful for. I love that we get to pour into our listening audience every week and bring you topics that hopefully get you thinking a little bit deeper about your journey. I can't wait to see what we get into today, Nims.
Yeah, always interesting, right? I mean, we before every episode, we always kind of talk about what we should talk about. That what do we feel energetically, and kind of feel like the energy we're in right now is for a lot of people, and a lot of people the clients and stuff that I talk to, and actually even myself, it's like we know there's a shift coming. We know that kind of entering into a new world, but we know it's not ready. But it's like the world we're in right now, we don't belong into, and the world that we're moving into isn't ready. So it's that we're in that kind of the weird space, and we recorded the episodes about the void and kind of what this feels like, and so we're like, okay, what do we want to talk about today? So today we're landing on why people stay stuck even when they want to heal. And I feel like a lot of people are going through this type of thing too, because it's like, what does that really mean? It's the gap between wanting change and actually things actually change. And sometimes we're not really stuck. It's there's work happening in the background, and whatever we're moving into isn't ready. But other times we are resisting, right? There's some deep change that we need to go through that, all the work we've done, whatever we've done, increase our awareness. So we know, we're so aware, we kind of like, yeah, we know that the planet's going through a shift, and yes, we know we're going through a shift, and, but it's like, it's almost that period of sometimes you're in denial, and sometimes we choose to stay stuck, but like I said, it's the awareness. We know what's happening on the planet. We have the speak, but it's it's owning it and realizing that awareness on its own isn't enough. We have to do the healing, right? It's just like the other thing, the favorite thing of people to do right now, they hear all the time is ChatGPT. oh wow, isn't ChatGPT cool? I can ask it about my Akashic records. I can ask it about, what healing, and it's a great extension to who you are, but it doesn't replace you having to do the work. Unfortunately, I wish it did, but it doesn't. So this is we're in a weird phase. So we wanted to dive deeper into talking about why people stay stuck even when they want to heal. And I want Stacey to jump in here in terms of how do you feel about that, Stacey? How do you feel about, have there been any times when you felt stuck but actually resisting doing the healing? I love putting you on the spot. You know that?
I love when you put me on the spot, Nims. It's one of my favorite things.
Hey, look, it'd be boring if you didn't. You expect this of me, so you're very, very welcome.
I think that it can be challenging when we feel stuck and we know that we need to make changes, but we're not sure where to even start. And I think that can be the issue a lot of times with people, is that they know that something isn't right. They know that they want to shift, but they're not exactly sure how to execute that. And I find this very often with clients. They know that the current circumstances aren't working for them. They have the awareness of that, but they're not sure where to even begin. And I've definitely been in that place before where I feel like something needs to shift. I'm not sure what it is. I guess we could talk about when I made the decision to end my engagement and not move to the UK. I knew that something wasn't right, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what it is for quite some time. It really took a lot of introspection, a lot of reflection, a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation for me to get to the place that I understood that I needed to stay here. And I think sometimes that awareness can take a little bit of time, that we have to marinate on whatever it is that we're going through and figure out, is this working for me? And if it's not, then we have to take next steps. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that space where they know something needs to change, but they're not sure how to do it.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting example, right? It's that journey you have to go on. Because we talked quite often before that, where I was like, well, you're moving to the UK, you're moving into someone else's world, right? And someone else's world who's really busy, and it's like, well, are you going to fit in? And you always thought you would, but there was a knowingness even from early on, but you have to go on that journey, right? It's easy to kind of say, well, why do you make this decision sooner? No, it's a big thing, right? You were moving to the UK and you were creating a new life, and you kind of, but it was a brave decision you made. And this is the thing, it's like recognizing the difference between, are you stuck or are you being prepared? And you wanting to heal, but are you ready to heal? It's an interesting, there isn't a black and white answer, right? And it's that recognizing that we're a soul having a human experience, but it is important you ask yourself some questions. Like I said earlier, awareness is great. We ask ourselves, on this podcast, we ask you often to change your question, right? Really, whatever you're going through, how's it serving you? How's it helping you? How's it expanding you? Those type of questions increase your awareness, right? It helps you to, but it doesn't create the transformation for you. You're the one that has to take action. You're the one that has to heal. But it's like, in Stacey's example, she had an expectation of what her life was going to look like. And, when you, it's like last week's episode, we were talking about blowing shit up. Before you decide to blow shit up, you want to make sure it's the right for you, and you have to go on this journey because there's implications. And so Stacey's always, thank you for that example. But it's also, it's recognizing as she did, these shifts that can be painful, as our nervous system gets attached to what is familiar, but it also gets attached to what our expectations are. And breaking that mold, it does hurt. It does require some effort. So being gentle with yourself, but actually taking some action is really important. And the thing is, our identity, it does identify with all those old wounds and stories, right? That old version of ourselves. So it sticks to what's familiar, but it's that awareness that we talked about, asking yourself those questions to help you to understand when you're ready for a shift. And it's like, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, where are you, then really ask yourself that question. Are you stuck? Or are you in a phase of transition? Is there something ready to heal? Is there something in your life that you need to get rid of? You're not, I say that with love, but is there anything in your life that you're done with? That the soul contract's ended, or something you do, your job, your career. Is there something that has come to an end? And when we say to you, why do you sometimes stay stuck in a situation, even when you're ready to heal, when you're ready to release? The universe has a role to play too, right? But it's like this energy we're in right now, like I talked about at the beginning. I feel like collectively we're in this phase of not fitting into our old world, but the new world isn't quite ready yet, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. It makes you feel like you're stuck. So is that what you're feeling, or is there something in your world ready to heal? So, Stacey, when I say, kind of just my energetic feel of things right now, that we're in that phase of, we don't exist in our. I know you relate to this because we've talked about it, but how you don't belong in your old world, but you're not ready. The new world's not ready for you yet. Is that something you could resonate with?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I made the decision to stay here, I had to start over again, and it felt extremely uncomfortable and awkward and new, even though I'm in the same place that I was planning on, being in. I didn't intend to stay here. And so I had to redefine everything about what I'm doing now. And I think it's important to understand that as human beings, we love what's familiar. We love things that feel familiar and feel comfortable, even if it's not good for us. I think that's what's really important, is to recognize that oftentimes we stay in what's familiar, even if it's uncomfortable, because it's what we know. And it might not be what's best for us. And I think that's what's really challenging, is you can stay in the same position that you've been in and stay in it because it's familiar, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's what's best for you.
It's not what's best for you. And then this is the thing. It's like being honest with yourself, and kind of, which is again the journey you went through of making this decision that you did, right? It's that being comfortable is one thing, and again, it's what you talked about, but it's that I do feel like we're this is what the ending of a cycle looks like, is being uncomfortable with where you're at and being honest with yourself and taking some action around it. But it's recognizing that sometimes taking action is to actually do nothing too, right? It's the waiting, waiting and trusting, and it's just again, I'm talking to the listener here, wherever you are in your journey is perfect for you, but what are you hiding? What are you running away from? Are you being too comfortable in your current situation? Have you outgrown the world that you're in? Is it time for you to challenge the people in your world and maybe do something different? And your old version of yourself, and all the old wounds and stories and the trauma you've been through, sometimes makes healing feel unsafe. maybe you trusted somebody in the past, or maybe you did some healing in the past, and that opened up some really painful wounds. But there's also a knowingness in you that, that whatever you're ready to heal, whatever you're ready to release, that you've done so much work to get here. And, look at the most painful things you've been through in your past, and you did it. You grew from it. So again, let me ask the listener a question: is like, a lot of the time, well, not a lot of the time, sometimes we get into a phase we talk more about healing than doing the healing itself. And it's an interesting point for me because I talk about healing all the time. It's what we do as a business, right? It's kind of, I do that on this podcast, and I do that with my clients, and I'm all the time talking about healing. Does it at times? I love what I get to do, and there is insight into what's happening on the planet, what's happening. But sometimes I do get lost in what's happening on the planet. Do I avoid doing the healing with me? Maybe not. But sometimes I delay it for sure. Sometimes there's a part of me, and I'm sure everyone can relate, just tired of doing the healing work sometimes. Sometimes I just want to be. And that's okay too, right? But let me ask you, the listener, is how much do you talk about healing compared to how much then doing the healing itself? How much do you talk about the patterns and everything, your awareness of who you are? How much do you talk about the patterns of who you are instead of releasing them? How do you feel about that, Stacey, in terms of, because you're in the same situation as me, right? We talk about healing all the time. So what we do, right, is kind of, we guide others, we hold space. Do you feel like you have a balance between talking about healing and doing the healing on you?
I think that I work really hard to have that balance. I don't think that it's easy because of what we do. We talk about it so much and we're constantly helping other people. But I think that it's a reminder that I have to focus on my own healing too. I think that constantly working in this industry and having healing be the focus of what we do makes me even more aware of my own healing journey and really pushes me to face those things that I might not otherwise face. I think that it's really easy to talk about healing and spirituality, but living it is a whole other thing. It really is. And it's interesting. I've been facing some challenges with this new life, right? Trying to establish this new life. I am dividing my time between my healing business at home and seeing people virtually, and being in a salon space and seeing people in person, which has been a massive shift. There's a lot of change happening, right? And it would be very easy for me to kind of clam up and go into my shell and not do the work, right? And say, this is too hard, or I don't have time, or what have you. But I feel very drawn to my own healing journey. Like I really want to see things shift and change and morph and grow. And I want to see those things happen. And in order to do that, I've got to go from the space of awareness into action. I've got to do the things that I know are going to lift me up. And so that's where my focus has been right now, Nims, is I'm aware of the changes I need to make. And now I have to do them. And sitting in it isn't going to get me anywhere. I know that the action is what's going to get me somewhere. That taking the steps that I need to be the best version of myself every day is so important. And friends, I want to add to this. If you've been through trauma, it can make it even harder to move forward. We can have a trauma response where we feel like that's the space we need to stay in, or things aren't going to change. And in that space, it can make it challenging for us to move forward as well. And I think a lot of us have been through trauma, Nims, and in that trauma, we can freeze, right? And we can isolate and we can close off and make it even harder on ourselves in that way too. So I really am hoping that this episode will get our listeners to think about where they are on their journey and what you're doing to manage this next season. A lot of us have gone through massive change in the last few years, and we're trying to figure out the aftermath of that. And so I'm hoping that this episode will inspire people to think a little bit more about what you're doing and how you can take action in your own life to continue to move forward.
Thank you, Stacey. And kind of, it's a reminder that this journey isn't black and white. There isn't no. It's easy for us to sit here and say, you know what, there's so many people out there that need to do more healing work, but they're procrastinating. And there isn't a right or wrong answer, but I do feel like now we're entering into the phase where the universe is keeping us really honest. Just seeing that with so many clients, and even with well, kind of personally, what I feel is like, but it's a realization that we are closing cycles. We are entering into a new phase. We do have to take some difficult decisions, but there isn't a right or wrong answer. Stacey was just talking about trauma, and it does leave us a bit jaded. All the healing that we've just done in this past period, a lot of people are jaded, right? There's a lot of people that are just tired of doing the healing, tired of all these shifts, and to a certain extent just tired. And energetically, let's be honest, there's so much uncertainty on the planet. And again, so it's always good to check in with yourself and saying, well, this uncomfortable feeling, is it mine or is it what I'm feeling for the planet? Because I do feel like we've been pushed to all do something different. Stacey made that decision of what was right for her was to not move and kind of stay. And she's creating a beautiful reset for herself, right? I had the pleasure of meeting the manager of the salon that she spoke to, and they're very, I love the synchronicity of the universe and bringing the right people into our world when we need them. And she's going to be a guest on the podcast. I won't reveal too much because we haven't done the recording yet and all that. But I just love the synchronicities and when the dots connect. And it's just, but that only happens when you put yourself out there. And there is no right or wrong time for it. And this is what Stacey was just talking about, right? It's that, but in your heart of hearts when you're procrastinating. In your heart of hearts when you're, kind of repeating patterns and, you're resisting. And so trust your intuition. If your intuition is telling you, what, you're in a holding pattern, now's the time to be present. But being present doesn't mean you don't do anything, right? It's still self-care, still time in nature, time in meditation. Because when you do all those things, you can't hide anymore. The biggest thing I feel like we've been asked to do right now is letting go of our expectations. That growth means letting go of who you thought you should be at this time, who you thought you were creating. If I asked Stacey, whatever, 6 months ago, where are you going to be in March, Stacey? And she would have 100% said, I'm going to be in the UK. Actually, interesting enough, just before we begin, she's like, Nims, your birthday's coming up in a few weeks. Well, what do you want? 6 months ago, I would have expected Stacey to rock up here, and sit on a train and come and see me in person. But that unfortunately, that's not as possible, not as easy when you got to jump on a plane, right? But it's just, we laugh and joke about it, but it's an interesting time. Being gentle with ourselves, but being honest with ourselves is the best thing you can do right now. But what was your expectations? That's the other thing I feel like we've been asked to do, is letting go of our expectations, letting go of who we thought, stop judging ourselves. We sit there and, by this position, by this age, I should have been this, I should have been that. There's no should. It's all part of my language, but it's all bullshit. The only thing we control is this moment. What are you going to focus on this moment? And honestly, this phase feels like it's been really slow. If I was to be honest with myself, the last few months, it felt like a drag. It feels like so much is going on. It's been really heavy. So many cycles, so many. This is an important day. This, we're leaving the year of the snake. It has been intense, and it continues to be intense. I feel for this planet that April is going to be super intense. I feel like the planet's going to go through such a shit, and I feel like we've been prepared for it, and this is the time for us to prepare and to let go of the things that no longer help. But at the same time, we're on a unique journey. So being compassionate to yourself, but being honest is really important. Stacey, I feel inspired for you to say to you, what question do you have for me? I'm always asking you questions. I don't think I've ever asked you on a podcast. Stacey, what's your question to me? There you go. One in a lifetime opportunity. I'm putting you on the spot again. Do you have a question for me, Stacey Brown?
Yeah. So, what do you do when you feel like this next season means that you have to let go of who you thought you were for whatever's next? How do you move through that season where you feel like your identity, your very identity, is being shaken to the core? How would you recommend moving through that? Because it's so uncomfortable.
Wow, that's a tough question. And I can resonate. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that question. It's that shedding the layers of who we are to become who we're meant to be. And, there isn't a simple way of doing that. First is, having that honest conversation with yourself. That version of you who you thought you should be, it doesn't exist. He or she doesn't exist. So having that honest conversation with yourself about where you are, who you are in this moment, having that conversation in the mirror, I feel like is a great place to start. Because, awareness and acceptance are the really important phases of healing. And then, and in the middle phase of, before you become who you're meant to be, that's when self-care is really important. It's like, until you get to know this version of you, it's like, well, let's say you go through the process of what you just asked me, you accept that who you thought you were going to be and who you doesn't exist anymore. That's like, it leaves a void. All of a sudden you're letting go. It's like you're bearing that version of you and you're going into mourning. So then there's that gap, there's that void. How do you feel that void? You get to know you. And how do you get to know you? Spend time in meditation. You spend time with you, because it's like, so often when we're going through this, we don't like spending time on our own. But actually spending time on your own during a phase of transition, when you've let go of that version of you and you've let go of that, you've got to take time to get to know you. And then right now, I don't feel like it's a time of major decisions. I feel like it's a time of small steps. So then you start, okay, what's my one step forward? What can I do to shine my light, to start to create the version of me that's meant to be here? Being comfortable in being in a holding pattern, knowing that actually you've let go of who you thought you were going to be, and you're giving time to allow who you're meant to be to come through. That's the phase I feel like a lot of us are in right now. Is that it's that transitional, it's that uncomfortable space in the middle where we've let go of who we thought we were going to be, and we're waiting for the version of us that, and it's just not for us, it's the planet. So there isn't a simple, but sitting with yourself and being honest with who you are, and what do you enjoy doing? What lights up your soul? And kind of doing some of those things, spending time with those people that lift you up. Of course, as well as spending time with yourself, right? As I talked about earlier, but being conscious with where you spend your time. Because it's in those moments of magic that you'll start to feel and realize who you've become. And by the way, what if, and be open to the person you become is so much more amazing than the person you thought you were going to be. Because we start to judge ourselves, it's our expectations. But what if you're an amazing soul? And I'm sure you are. And whoever's in your world, you're a gift to them. How does that even feel? So Stacey, two questions to you. One, to hopefully that answer, there was a long answer to the question, but hopefully it kind of gave some insight. The second question to you is, can you accept you're a blessing to whoever's in your life?
That's such a loaded question.
But you are. It's not a loaded question. It really isn't. Can you accept that you're a blessing? I know that I'm a blessing in people's life. I don't, and I'm not, maybe I sound arrogant, but I don't mean to be. What I mean is I know that, look, when I ask you open questions, when I push people, when I extend people, people don't always like me, but I know that I help people.
Mm-hmm.
So I can honestly say, you know what? I expand people and I love that role. So I'm a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
You accept that you're a blessing in people's life.
I can accept that. I think that there is so much power in being open about your journey and sharing it with the world. And I've been so open in sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I absolutely believe that through me sharing openly and vulnerably, I am helping other people. And there's something really beautiful about living your journey so openly and letting people see it. I know there are people who don't agree with what I've done. I absolutely know that. But I also know that I've inspired a lot of people on their journey. And for me, I just try to focus on first myself and my own healing journey and what that looks like and how I move forward. And then I focus on the lessons that I learn from the experiences that I'm going through. And from that space, I then share those experiences. And I feel like it's huge, right? There are a lot of people who go through major life changes and they never share with anyone what's going on. But how do we help each other grow if we don't share? And that's why I do what I do, because I feel like from that space, I'm able to help people in a whole different way.
I love it. And I love what you said. You know what? Not everyone's going to agree with you. And that's okay. No one's living your life. You're not here to make everybody else happy, right? But we are programmed to be people pleasers, right? That's kind of our programming. It's kind of but it's the mold that we're trying to break. And, I always love the line and, say, I'm sure you know what line I'm going to say, but are you willing to disappoint another to be true to yourself? It's just, this is a time where I feel like we do need to be our individual selves. It's not being selfish to prioritize yourself, but we all have a role to play on this planet. And if we try to please everybody else, we're never going to fill that role. And it's weird as I say that, my voice goes funny, right? But it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time for this planet. It's an interesting time, and we're all going through this evolution. We're all going through this shift. But the question that we come back to this episode is just that. Is there something in part of you that you're ready to heal? Is there a part of you that feels stuck? How honest are you with yourself? Are you sitting here and you're listening to us and you're like, oh yeah, these guys are what I can resonate with some of what they say. Are you just listening, or are you then actually asking yourself, okay, what part of me needs to heal? What part of me am I holding on to? What part of me is healed? What part of me needs to healing? And for me, the healing journey is a lifetime. Whenever somebody says I'm healed, I always kind of smile to myself, because I feel like the universe has a way of keeping us honest and reminding us that we still got more healing to do. So, but this is the thing. It's like I can resonate so much, and I have a lot of people in my world who I talk to on a regular basis, and clients, etc. This phase has felt like it's really slow. It feels like it's really intense. But so much happens in a week, right? It's like you get to the end of the week and it's gone so quick, but you're like, wait, hold on, was that just a week? I mean, sometimes you ask me and it's like, well, we're recording this on a Tuesday. Nims, what did you do yesterday? I'm like, hold on, I have to think about it, because so much happens in a day, but it goes so quick, but sometimes it feels really slow. It's such a weird and interesting time. But this is it. When you listen to this, are you ready to move forward? Are you ready to embrace whoever you're meant to be? Are you ready to let go of that version of you who you thought you were going to be? And are you ready to be uncomfortable? Stace, you embody the feeling of being uncomfortable. I see you, and it's like last week we laughed because the question about blowing shit up, and it's just like you. Sometimes I see you live a 6 month journey in 3 days, and that's what this journey right now can feel like. It can come really quick, or it can feel like it's really slow. But the thing you have to realize is actually you're more in control than you realize. So control doesn't mean that you can control every next step. Control means that you embrace who you are. Control means that you let go of control, because the human wants to control everything. And realistically, how much control do we have? Stace made the decision to stay, but the universe was shifting things in a way to help her realize that's not the right thing to do. It's like when I left corporate. It was a couple of years ago. Everyone says, "Oh, you're so brave. You left, a big salary and whatever, and a safe role." I wasn't being brave. I wasn't even a decision. It was just such an obvious thing to do. So again, Stacey, I feel like I'm putting you more on the spot than usual this time. But anyway, when you came to the decision that you did, do you feel like it was a decision, or do you feel like the universe made things so clear to you that it was maybe not obvious, because obviously there's implications, but the decision became clear?
It took some time, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of tossing and turning, a lot of churning, and then it became clear. It definitely took some time for it to become clear, but once it was clear, I knew that's what I had to do. I just knew. I knew in my soul, this is what I have to do. And I didn't really think about the implications. I didn't really think about next steps. It was first the awareness that this isn't working, this isn't right, and now I have to do something differently. And I just want to say, with that came a lot of fear, right? Of, okay, so what does this mean for my life? What does this mean for my relationship? What does this mean for my child? What does this mean for the rest of my family? What does this mean for my future? I mean, there were tons of questions, and I knew that it was going to take time to get the answers. And so that meant a period of discomfort. And I think sometimes we avoid that shift because we're afraid of being uncomfortable, right? Like it's not a good feeling to feel unsettled. We're creatures of habit. We're creatures that love things being familiar and comfortable. And when they're not, we can get really churned up. And I think a lot of people avoid the change because they don't know what's on the other side. And it's easier to stay in what they know, even if it sucks, than it is to go into the unfamiliar. And for me, this has been a season of going into uncharted territory and having to trust big time that everything is going to be okay. And trusting that my angels and guides are leading me and guiding me, that my higher power is in control. I've had to have a huge shift in how I look at things, and I've had to lean into my faith more than ever in order to make these changes, because it is so scary, and I think we have to go from a place of shifting from I want to heal into I am willing to change. And there's a big difference. To be willing to let those changes happen is a scary place to be. And I don't want to avoid it just because it's uncomfortable, Nims. I don't want to hide because it's hard.
It's interesting the roles that we play. It's like I do feel like when you choose the role of a mentor, when you choose the role of there's pressure on you to set an example. I've certainly felt the weight of the world over the last couple of weeks and what's happening on the planet. But I love what you said. It's that a shift from I want to heal to I am willing to change. You talked about people staying in uncomfortable situations. That's why I love the phrase, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. When you choose to stay in a situation because it's comfortable, even though you've outgrown it, that's when you choose to suffer, right? And there's no right or wrong, by the way. I mean, we make it sound easy. We get it. It's not. But there comes a moment, and Stacey was talking about it, right? When she made the decision, there was fear there for her, right? But did she think through the full consequences? Probably not. Did she have to take a trustful, a leap of faith? 100% she did. And this is what I feel like we're all being asked to do right now is, are you willing to let go and trust that you're going to be held by the universe? Real healing, this is what we talk about this whole conversation is having an honest conversation with yourself. And by the way, this is what we mean stays too. So if you feel like you need support, if you feel like you need somebody to hold your space as you go through the shift, then reach out. This is what we love to do. This is what we get to do. It's a blessing for us to guide you. So if it feels like you're ready for it, then reach out. If you want to work with both of us, work with us individually, do it. If you're looking for a safe space to really kind of be part of a community, be held, then I have my membership group. Stacey has a female-only Facebook group. And if we're not us, then look for the right. But this is the time for you to embrace you. This is the time for you to have an honest conversation with yourself. This is the time for you to really ask yourself, am I in a phase of pain or am I suffering? What am I holding on to? Which version of ourselves? It's like, this is a powerful time. And, this whole conversation, Stacey, I love your vulnerability. I say, I know about this conversation with you, but I've been thinking for a while, it's like, do I need to share more of my story? I mean, when I compare what you've been through the last few years compared to, I feel like mine, I've been in a very peaceful state, but I know I've got my own journey too, right? And it's that speaking our truth, sharing our knowledge, standing in our power is really what we've been asked to do right now. And being uncomfortable. This phase, if we're honest with ourselves, when you have an honest conversation with your mirror and with yourself in the mirror, is uncomfortable. I feel like this phase and over the next couple of months, starting in April, there's going to be so much shifting on the planet. We have a choice. Do we allow the pain on the planet to consume us? Or do we focus on what we need to do on the inside to shine our light? Are we letting the external noise, whether it's on the planet or whether it's in our life, consume us and stopping us from moving forward? Because we do that sometimes too, right? So yeah, just I'm feeling the energy and the vibration, and I'm sending so much love and light out to everybody because I can feel so much pain on the planet. But be uncomfortable. The States, as we kind of start to close out this episode, I'm going to ask you. I mean, I feel like I've been talking about suggesting journal prompts all throughout this episode, but if you have any journal prompts, any wisdom, anything you want to share, please do.
So I believe so much in the power of journaling and the ability we have to process things a little bit deeper through our writing. So I would encourage you, if you're in a season of discomfort right now, turning to your journal can absolutely bring you some clarity. And maybe it's time to ask yourself some questions. Are you afraid of change? And why? Are you holding back on your healing journey because of that fear? And what could be on the other side of that fear? Like, if you move forward walking through that fear, what could you uncover about yourself? Ask yourself some of these questions. Dig deep. Allow yourself to explore. Maybe you've gotten sedentary because you're so used to the comforts of what's familiar, but maybe it's no longer healthy for you. It's time to take a closer look and see what's going on and uncover a little bit more of your truth.
Love it, Stacey. So, so powerful. And the thing is, the reality of everything we've been talking about in this episode is about trusting you. It's about listening to your own voices. It's about, if you're feeling uncomfortable, be uncomfortable. Sometimes we stay stuck, not because we can't change. But still what we're saying is because a part of us is afraid. A part of us is afraid of what's on the other side. Stacey talked about it, right? It's that fear of, hold on, if I take this step, I'm creating a gap in myself that I don't know what's going to be in that gap. I don't know what my future holds. And that's scary, but what's courage? Courage is not about being fearless. Courage is about having fear and doing it anyway. So what courageous step can you take for you today? Healing doesn't always begin when you want to change. It begins the moment you're willing to become someone new. So are you willing to become someone new today? I feel like we're all needed at this time, and I feel like we're all being pushed to become something new. But are you willing to let go of those parts of you that no longer serve without knowing who you're becoming? That is what I feel is a challenge at this moment. And like I said, there's so much support out there. I feel like our guides are so much closer. I feel like there's so many planets that are supporting what Earth's going through at the moment. I feel like, reach out to people like me on Stacey if you need help. Book a free discovery call. And if we're not right, look for communities around you. Look for spaces that allow you to be. Look and manifest new people in your world that hold you to different vibration. You're needed. You want it. And Stacey, I know we went off for a total tangent on this episode, and I love it. I kind of, it's just I kind of feel like the banter that we had on this episode is maybe kind of like where we started, and I love it. But thank you for being so honest. Thank you for being so vulnerable as always. That's your superpower, and I love you for it. And thank you for this space. For us, it's healing. For us, it gives us an opportunity to speak our truth. Our journey through this podcast has been super, super healing. So you guys hold our space just like we try and hold your space. So, Stacey, I'm going to hand over to you to say any final words before we close.
I just want to encourage our listeners to face those things that maybe are uncomfortable and do what you can to build yourself up in a way that that change is for your highest good. and that you're willing to walk through the fear and do it anyway. I know how challenging this can be, my friends. I absolutely feel it. NIMS and I are here to support you in any way that we can. This is the work that we do. It's what we're passionate about. And if you're going through a season of change and you need support, please reach out to us. We're always just a DM or an email away. You have access to us, and we're willing to help you on your journey. NIMS, thanks for another powerful episode.
Thank you, Stace. Thank you, all our listeners. Thank you for allowing us to guide you. And as we've been saying, if we can help, please reach out. We're sending you so much love and light. We're sending so much love and light out to every space on the planet that needs it. There's a lot of shifting on the planet. There's a lot of pain. And we, both of us, send so much love and light out to wherever it's needed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And bye for now.